What is up, my beautiful people? My name is G-Vance and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about the new album by Joyner entitled ADHD. This is the official debut studio album by Joyner, which comes to us about 2 years after 508, 507, 2209, which in my opinion was a very, very creative album. I really loved how every song ended with Joyner, saying his whole a voicemail, and at the end of the song, a different person would send Joyner a message through his voicemail, which would later on, imply what the next song was going to be about. Joyner is by far probably one of the most creative and probably one of the best rappers that we have right now in modern day times. And I think the reason for that is because, whenever he drops a song, not only does he make a really memorable and catchy song for us to enjoy as the years go by, but he puts his very creative and very unique storytelling skills to the test as he paints a lot of great vivid pictures in our head, and just always has a very more deeper meaning behind every song that he always makes. A good example is the song called I'm Not Racist, which is pretty much Joyner addressing the big problem with racism that we have in America right now, as he tells the perspective of a white man and the perspective of a black man, in the song, as they sort of argue and sort of give their own opinions on racism, and as they just try to try and understand each other better and set aside their differences by letting each other know exactly how they feel, so they can better much understand where the other person is coming from. Another example could be the song Frozen, which is pretty much Joyner addressing the problems of driving unsafe, as he tells the perspectives of 3 victims who died because either somebody was texting while driving under the influence, and going down on high-speed chases, or pretty much street racing and shit like that. And of course there's the very famous song called Ross Cappuccini. I don't know if I'm saying that name right, but that song is pretty much Joyner telling the story of an unfortunate event that happened back in Detroit a few years back, where this kid named Ross Cappuccini, where he unfortunately got shot a bunch of times with a shotgun, and somehow managed to survive, which is really fantastic. And what's really cool about that song and the video, if you take a chance to see that Ross Cappuccini video if you haven't already, what was really cool about it is that Joyner not only tells the perspective of obviously Ross Cappuccini, he's the one that got shot by this dude, but he also tells the perspective of the shooter. What were his motives, what were his reasons to try and kill this kid. Joyner just in general always finds a way to make a lot of catchy songs and just a lot of great songs for us to remember, and he always manages to make a lot of great and creative albums in general. And this album is no different whatsoever. With the title ADHD, you obviously have a lot of potential to make this album a really not only great and meaningful album, but a really deep album that has a much more deeper message to it. The first track on the album takes you by surprise right away, because it's pretty much a skit of Joyner as a child, getting a sort of screening evaluation from his psychiatrist, and he's pretty much showing him a bunch of Rorschach images to ask Joyner what he sees in every image. And as he gets to the 3rd image, which apparently says he sees a condom or some shit, it's kind of funny. But the 3rd image, I guess he kind of gets wrong, which is kind of stupid, because the Rorschach images are what you see, not what you expect him to see, but it's whatever. But he apparently gets them wrong, and this psychiatrist dude goes from having the most nicest voice ever to being aggressive and calling this dude a fucking retard and shit. I don't know if it's based on a true story, but just hearing that first skit had me shocked, what the fuck is gonna happen. It's it really pretty much settles sets the tone and mood for the album, and just lets you better prepare yourself for what the album is going to be about. In simple terms, this whole album is pretty much Joyner doing a big fuck you to all the people that doubted him because of his ADHD. I feel this album is really good for anybody that obviously has ADHD, but has any other mental illness or disorder that they feel is holding them back, and they feel they can't succeed because they're different from other people. This album is pretty much Joyner inviting everybody to celebrate his whole big fuck you album to the people that doubted him, to the people that put him down because of his ADHD. You know, it's pretty much a whole message that the kid with ADHD made it. You know, it's no doubt that Joyner Lucas has obviously been a force to be reckoned with since he showed off his clever lyricism and storytelling skills, you know, back in 2015. And, you know, now that, now as a 31-year-old, he is finally, making his debut studio album. He just pretty much like shows that he's like having a lot more fun with his career, experimenting a lot more with his music, which I'm like really glad to see. I really love how he's like better adapting to like modern day times. He obviously still has that same old style that he like was using when he first started rapping, but obviously now he's trying to adapt more to like the new school and just kind of like do a proper introduction to his music to people that have yet to listen to it. And I feel like if anybody were to listen to a Joyner Lucas album for the first time, it should probably be this one, and probably 508 507 2209. That one was my first ever album by Joyner Lucas that I heard, and that like got me hooked right away. And this album just pretty much like has you wondering, what is Joyner Lucas gonna do next? I really love that Joyner Lucas is stepping outside of his comfort zone a lot more in this album. He's like, not only has his like rap flow has improved a lot, his production skills has improved a lot, but he's been working a lot on his singing voice. I think there's like maybe like 3 tracks on this album where he's like singing instead of rapping. Honestly, his singing voice has gotten so much better. And I really love how he's like not only like working with the same like old school like hip hop style that he's been working with for a while now, but he's like working with more like different sounds and styles. Like for example, he's like doing his own like version of trap on his album. He has a few like acoustic sounds on his album, like guitar, piano. It's like it's shit that he's done in the past before, but it's like a lot more like in your face this time. So like honestly, I just really love how he's like working with all these different styles and genres to just like include a lot of like diversity in this album. And not only does Joyner Lucas show a lot of improvement when it comes to his music skills, but he's also showing a lot of like maturity on this album. And one way that he does it is obviously that 3rd track entitled Isis with the one and only Logic, which for those of you that don't know, I think it was like, I want to say 2 years ago when Joyner and Logic had that really like silly beef that to be honest, to this day, I still like don't know and understand why like that beef happened. In my opinion, it was like a sort of like pity ass beef. But I'm really glad that they've found a way to like work out their differences and do like a much needed like collab. Like I really wanted Joyner Lucas and Logic to do like one more collab together, because honestly I didn't really like the collab they did together on Take 9's song called Sriracha. But I think on this track Isis, they both go off, they both show off their like true fucking potential when they work together. And I really hope that this isn't the last time they work together, because honestly they sound so great together. And I'm just again really fucking glad that they like set that beef aside, because they're a really like dangerous duo on this album. And another way that Joyner Lucas shows maturity on this album is by obviously spreading the wisdom that he's like gathered from his past experiences, and to like pretty much like put him on this album to like spread to the world, and to like make them think a lot more differently, and just pretty much like try to like expand not only their mind a little bit but his mind as well. For example, the 7th track entitled Devil's Work is by far like my favorite like deep song that Joyner Lucas has ever made. That one is pretty much Joyner Lucas like questioning, not questioning if God is real, but pretty much questioning his plan, because he's pretty much like like saying, if God is real, then why do like the good people like always die like very like fast and quick, and like these like bad people are still alive, going against everything that God like has ever like said and taught. Like a few names that it brings up are like Michael Jackson, Nipsey Hussle. He even goes as far back as mentioning Trayvon Martin, and pretty much like questioning white people like George Zimmerman and Dylan Roof, and just like all these horrible people that have caused good people to die, like are still alive and doing well, even though that they're like like really horrible people. Another song that shows like more of him being like mature could be the 17th track entitled Will, which is pretty much like his like song dedicated to one of his like biggest idols and probably his biggest heroes of all time, which is none other than Will Smith. Like he like does like a whole like ode to him, and pretty much like I don't remember the exact quote that he says on this album, but he pretty much says, like we always idolize our idols, like, more after they're gone. So why not do it now while they're alive, so like they know the kind of impact and influence they had on you, which I think is like really like great and mature of him to like to think about. Like it's really like it's really sad that the moment people die, people start to like idolizing them more and like respecting them more, even though when they were alive they weren't really like praising them as much. So I really love how he's pretty much like like just letting Will Smith know the influence that he had on him, and pretty much like thanking him for like being like someone he could like look up to when he didn't really have a like positive like role model to look up to at the time. So I really did love that whole like Will Smith like dedicated song. I'm not that big on Will Smith, unfortunately. Like I like a few of his movies. I didn't really fuck with his music that much, but he has like influenced a lot of people both with his music and his acting career. And that's pretty much all you can like really like hope to do like with your platform when you like really make it big. And of course, there has to be at least either one song or one skit on this album where Joyner Lucas is like having fun and just being funny. Like for example, there's a skit called Kevin where it's pretty much Kevin Hart like sending Joyner Lucas a voicemail, and like he's pretty much like threatening to like fuck him up or something. Like it was actually really funny hearing Kevin Hart say, just because I'm 5'4" doesn't mean shit. Like I still come fuck you up. Like he's pretty much asking him to like give him his money because apparently he like owes him money, which I think is funny because that skit comes after a song called Lotto, which is Jordan Lucas talking about like, oh, I hit the lotto and shit like that, like I'm rich as fuck and whatnot. And like Kevin Hart is over here like, I don't understand how you like don't have the money to like fucking pay me back that you owe me like a few fucking months ago, and all of a sudden you're like making this song called Lotto. Like it doesn't fucking work like that. Like I really like love the humor that was on this album. And besides the really dope song with Logic on this album, like a lot of the other features on this album are another big highlight for me, because it's just like a lot of artists that Jordan Lucas has never like worked with before, and like surprisingly sounded really good. Like for example, there's a song called The War with Young Thug. I don't really like Young Thug at all, but just hearing like his singing voice combined with Jordan Lucas' singing voice on this song, like they both sounded like so good together, and it kind of like showed me what Young Thug can do when he like does give a fuck. And maybe he does give a fuck and I just like don't like him, that's just me. But I really did enjoy Young Thug on that one song. And of course, Chris Brown makes an appearance on this album on a song called Finally. I think this is like the fifth like song that Chris Brown and Joyner Lucas have been on, and once again, that song just brings that really like great combination of old school rap mixed with like early 2000s R&B. I really love, whenever Chris Brown and Joyner Lucas get together, because they just like bring out like something new to the table, and they just like never disappoint. And probably my favorite track out of the whole album on a song called 10 Bands with none other than the legend known as Tim Ballin. I was not expecting Tim Ballin to be on this fucking album, but it fucking happened. I really loved hearing Tim Ballin and Joyner Lucas like join together to make a really great early 2000s like hip hop song. Like it honestly sounded so great, and I really hope there's a future project where it's just Joyner Lucas and Tim Ballin on a fucking album together, because if this song sounded super fucking good and like super nostalgic, can y'all imagine if they like did a full like project together? Like I'd be super down to see that. Surprisingly, the only person that doesn't make an appearance on this album is Eminem, which I found it kind of weird because I'm pretty sure I heard something about Eminem going to be on Joyner Lucas like new project. Maybe it got scrapped because it wasn't like a good fit for this album. So I really hope that for the next Joyner Lucas project or for the next Eminem project that we get to see yet another collaboration with Eminem and Joyner Lucas, because honestly, when I heard Lucky You on the Kamikaze album by Eminem a few years back, that song is everything that I like wanted and expected when it came to a Joyner Lucas and Eminem collab song. And I just really hope that we get to hear like those two again, because like that's yet another really like unstoppable and like fucking like really good duo. Overall, this album is something that you will never ever get bored of. From start to finish, it is something that will always like have your attention, and it is an album that you for sure have to listen to at least once. You know, I highly recommend this one to anyone that has been waiting for something new by Joyner Lucas, and just anyone that wants to hear something like new and different. You know, this album is something that you're really going to enjoy, and it's like an album that's going to give you hope if you have ADHD or any other like mental like illnesses or disorders that you feel that are like, you know, holding you back from being like an amazing person. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed my review. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell down below, all that good stuff so you don't miss a single one of my uploads whatsoever. And don't forget to stay happy.
10 bands, 20 bands. She'll do anything for a couple grand. Never had no money, but she love to dance. I give her my money back to Uncle Sam.